Yeah, Shedeur Sanders preseason. I think Shedur's gonna be the next Tom Brady. I think he's gonna be better than LeBron. Stop bringing up LeBron. I'm about to bust.
Hey guys, what about me? I had more yards and touchdowns on a higher completion percentage.
Who the f are you? Yeah, your dad's not famous. Get out of here before I get soft, you bum.
This video contains strong adult language. May not be suitable for children or sensitive people. Boom, boom.
Oh dear God, Cleveland, what have you done? The amount of disrespect you showed Baker Mayfield on the way out wasn't nearly as bad as who you signed to replace him. Oh, and Cleveland fan, you better hope Watson wins you a lot of games because your soul's gotta be worth it. The amount of mental gymnastics I've seen to justify Watson being there has been just as appalling as this asshole fan's sign. Poor kid, but look what the owner has to say. Let's not ignore the facts.
And you could say, well, that's because he's a star quarterback. Well, of course, but if he was Joe Smith, he wouldn't be on the headlines every day.
Remember, if it doesn't work out with Watson, his contract is the largest fully guaranteed dollar amount in NFL history. Ah yes, while Baker Mayfield may be moving out of this house soon, the Browns may be following suit. Though there are no formal proposals, the Browns and Cleveland find themselves in a love it or list it type of conundrum to either renovate the 23-year-old arena or build something completely new. As this article states, the team and the city might want a dome like US Bank Arena in Minneapolis to curb the brisk climate and attract events such as the Final Four. Yeah, it's pretty bad when you're Cleveland and you envy both the Mini and Indianapolis. Cleveland Browns. 3 firsts, a third, and a fourth, and then the largest fully guaranteed contract ever in the NFL for 1,100 yards, 7 TDs, 5 picks, and a 3-3 record. Look, any organization that brings in Deshaun Watson after all the accusations is obviously poorly run, but let's look at other criteria to see how bad the Browns really are. Coaching turnover. Kevin Stefanski, if he makes it through a couple weeks next year, will be the longest tenured coach in the re-expanded Browns history. And he's not that much better than Romeo Crennel. The on-field product has been horrible. 2 playoff berths in 20 plus years, a 1-win season followed by an 0-16 season. Joe Thomas retired even though he might have had a couple seasons left. Myles Garrett was fined for trying to decapitate Mason Rudolph, then wrecked his car and missed time for supposedly swerving to miss a deer while a female companion was in the car? Okay. The Watson deal was bad, but what about the OBJ trade? Overpaying for Jadeveon Clowney and his 2 sacks this year? And let's not forget the owner himself was in hot water for a scam that happened at Flying J. And the Browns stadium is aging, though I do kind of dig the Brownie logo they put at the 50. Yes, the Browns checked all the boxes, but it's hard to believe there is a worse run team in the league. The Browns score of 56 is not the highest. But speaking of painful journeys, the Cleveland Browns. Yes, we have been over the Cleveland Browns jersey, so I'll be brief in this encapsulation of their QB woes. Probably the most fascinating things is how the Browns owners and management wake up every day knowing about their past failures, yet continue to add names to this jersey like it's a Family Guy running joke.
Hey, is your refrigerator running?
Yes, it is. Are your doors unlocked?
What? Why?
Of course, their solution to all of this was to sign and trade for Deshaun Watson, who is still serving his suspension. Who's to blame? Everyone, but pretty much Jimmy Haslam, who has brought nothing but tears to Cleveland since their re-expansion. High turnover, impatience, poor talent evaluation, bad signings, you name it. But this next team shouldn't have all those excuses. Rumored to be replaced, Cleveland Browns Stadium starred in a series of commercials along with Baker Mayfield. That didn't end poorly or anything. What's interesting is that the Re-Browns, technically an expansion team, have only known this stadium in their entire existence. Probably the most charming area is the Dog Pound, but like Tom, I share this opinion.
So that one was, I gave myself the self-tour when I went to go there for Monster Jam. And like another one, it was kind of just like a run-of-the-mill stadium. There wasn't anything that really stuck out to me of being like over the top. There wasn't a ton of like tech or anything like that. I didn't get to see, obviously, behind the scenes. But yeah, like pretty standard seats, like pretty standard, like old building that didn't really impress me a ton.
It's always better to just do it yourself, right? And instead of like involving somebody else, you know, maybe particularly against like outside of their profession, right? Like you would just do it by yourself. Number 23, Brownie the Elf. The creepiness factor is way up on this one, but I will give props. This is the only mascot in the NFL that also got to be the logo at midfield for their squad, as voted on by the fans. Apparently, it has an interesting origin story as it first appeared as weird drawings in the newspapers back in the 40s. You know, back before the internet. Yes, this thing does look evil, like it just molested a masseuse. Cleveland Browns, so many to choose from, a literal graveyard. The immediate urge is to hand this award to Johnny Football, but the numbers suggest that DeShone Kizer was even worse. At least Manziel won a game in Cleveland. Kizer never did in 15 starts, no less. Kizer once said he was a cross between Tom Brady and Cam Newton. Yes, divorced Tom Brady and Patriots Cam Newton. Cleveland Browns, Zane Gonzalez. The Browns have been experimenting with kickers for quite a while now, and in 2018 they found out that Zane Gonzalez was not the answer. The lowest point for Gonzalez came when he missed a pair of extra points and 2 field goals against the Saints, including the potential game-tying field goal in a 3-point loss for the Brownies, and kicking so pathetic Urban Meyer winced. Cleveland Browns, Ben Roethlisberger. It's pretty easy to hate on Big Ben and his stupid face, but oh, did Big Ben own the Browns? He was 29-6-1. There's a tie. And 17-1 at home against them, winning in amazing, annoying ways, and generally just being hateable. Honorable mention to Juju Smith-Schuster, who said the Browns is the Browns, and then got his Browns pushed in. Cleveland Browns, it's Deshaun fucking Watson. Never before has a player so selfishly compromised the team's cap space and their fans' morals. Okay, I say selfishly, but that's on the Haslets. Jesus, he's so bad now that he's getting Browns fans to love Joe Flacco in the year 2023. Groper Cleveland earned the largest guaranteed contract in NFL history that's going to hamstring the Browns for years, all for a quarterback who can't stay on the field and can hardly produce when he's on it. And don't bring up stats, he fucking sucks. Kokinis, Tom Heckert, Michael Lombardi, Ray Farmer, and Sashi Brown. The Cleveland Browns from 2009 to 2018 had one of, if not the worst stretches in the history of the NFL, which was capped off with an 0-16 season in 2017. And the 5 inept GMs that ran the team during that time period need to all be called out, because going 34-110 over a 9-year span really was a team effort. Let's start with George Kokinis. Or is it Kokina? I don't fucking know. Who cares? Who did draft Alex Mack, but was fired after just 9 months for allegedly substance abuse and not being able to keep his cockiness in his pants. That led to Tom Heckert, who passed on J.J. Watt and Julio Jones in the loaded 2011 draft, and then traded down to select defensive end Phil Taylor. Taylor had 7 sacks in 44 games, 4 of which came in his first year. Heckert was then fired and gave way to 1-year GM Michael Lombardi, who's known more for being a hot take spewing analyst and Jason Kelsey calling him a clown,
Some clown named Mike Lombardi!
than anything he did as the Browns GM. He was fired after a power struggle. He allegedly had selected Josh McDaniels as the next head coach of the Browns, but even the Browns knew that was stupid, and McDaniels publicly backed out because even a snake like McDaniels recognized Cleveland was a shit show. Lombardi gave way to idiot du jour Ray Farmer, who famously drafted Johnny Manziel. This is who the Haslams, who bought the team in 2014, first handpicked to ruin their franchise. And boy, did he do just that. He also drafted Justin Gilbert and hired inept head coach Mike Pettin. After Jimmy Haslam couldn't stand that Farmer made it 2 whole years, he then brought in Sashi Brown, whose moves took a 3-13 team and made them a 1-win team, and then a no-win team. Brown got rid of wide receiver Taylor Gabriel, who was productive with the Falcons. He then traded linebacker Demario Davis for Calvin Pryor, who they cut. He cut Joe Hayden, who went on to the Steelers. He traded for Brock Osweiler and then cut him in camp. He let Alex Mack just walk and then passed on drafting Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson, who is now Andrew Berry's albatross. Ultimately, Jim Haslam needs to take some blame for the bed he continues to shit, but these GMs were outright terrible. Cleveland Browns, Jimmy Haslam. Whoa, it's hard to believe that there are two worse owners than Jimmy Haslam, but let's leave that for now. Haslam, who bought the team in 2012, has overseen one of the worst losing stretches ever, with the team not logging a winning season until his 9th in 2020. Haslam hires and fires coaches like King Henry with wives, is impatient, and oh yeah, did I mention he traded for and signed Groper Cleveland in one of the worst trades and contracts in NFL history? His company was also involved in a scam, and just this last year, he's being investigated over allegedly cooking the books and bribing employees. And the dude is a Steelers fan. He doesn't even like the Browns. The Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns might be the greatest case study of it all when it comes to missing on head coaches. Sure, they might not have as many coaches as they've had quarterbacks since their revival in 1999, but it's not far off. Let's run down the list. Chris Palmer, Butch Davis, Terry Robisky, Romeo Crennel, Eric Mangina, Pat Shurmur, Rob Chudinsky, Mike Pettin, Hugh Jackson, Greg Williams, Freddie Kitchens, and finally, Kevin Stefanski. As the saying goes, the 12th time's usually a charm. For a team so quick to pull the trigger and fire head coaches, the most head-scratching decision they made or didn't make was with Hugh Jackson. Somehow, after 2 seasons, Jackson managed to stick around despite compiling a record of 1-31 in 2016 and 2017. Either he's the most persuasive man of all time, or he had some incredible dirt on the Browns ownership, which apparently isn't that hard to find. The Browns were also dumb enough to promote Freddie Kitchens from running backs coach all the way to head coach in the span of just a few months. And yeah, you might have guessed that didn't work out too well. It's okay though, Kitchens has now landed on his feet in a very prestigious role as tight ends coach and run game coordinator for the University of North Carolina. Cleveland Browns, ah yes, the Groper Cleveland trade. Look, I mean, if you can just ignore the 26 allegations, it wasn't a bad trade, but combined with the contract they signed to Sharvie Watstein for, that makes it awful. In 2022, the Browns gave the Texans 3 firsts and a 3rd and a 4th. So far, these picks have been guard Kenyon Green, defensive end Will Anderson, and stud wide receiver Tank Dell. The Texans were also able to draft C.J. Stroud and John Mechie and just made the playoffs. The Browns also made the playoffs, but no thanks to Deshaun Cosby, who was injured and gave way to Joe Flacco. The Cleveland Browns, Sashi Brown. From one Brown to another, the Browns have had a history of bad GMs. Sashi Brown has the worst GM record in history at 1-31 over 2 seasons, including an 0-16 campaign. He acquired Brock Osweiler, he passed on Carson Wentz and Groper Cleveland in the draft. He signed injury-prone Kenny Britt, he cut Joe Hayden, and he let Alex Mack, Mitchell Schwartz, and Tayshaun Gibson all go. Easily one of the worst GMs in history. The Cleveland Browns. Thanks, Browns. Without your idiot owner, who is actually a Steelers fan, we wouldn't have the moniker of Groper Cleveland. Just trading for the dude is controversial enough. You'll see the reason why later on this list. I mean, you know the reason why. You know. For our final entry, which is no surprise, the Cleveland Browns, 28 starting quarterbacks since 2009. The intent of this video was to find a team that could somehow compete with how awful the Browns have been at QB. That attempt failed. Let's relive how all of this unfolded. In 2009, Brady Quinn and Derek Anderson split the starting duties, but neither impressed. The Browns hoped for stability with 3rd rounder Colt McCoy and senior citizen Brandon Weeden, yet both struggled to make an impact. These years were marked by a lack of consistency and development, further plunging the team into quarterback chaos. In 2014, the Browns drafted Johnny Manziel, a highly touted prospect with the Heisman Trophy on his resume. However, he spent more time in rehab than in the end zone. Brian Hoyer, Josh McCown, and Austin Davis also started games during this period, but none could establish themselves as a long-term solution. But hey, remember when Hoyer had them sitting at 7-4 in 2014? Buckeye fans who lived in Cleveland were creaming themselves back then. He promptly got injured. In an attempt at a reclamation project, Robert Griffin III's brief stint in 2016 ended in injury, paving the way for Cody Kessler and Josh McNown. The 2017 season saw Deshaun Kaiser take over, but he guided them to a winless season and was 0-15 as a starter. Baker Mayfield's arrival as a #1 pick in 2018 brought a glimmer of hope so desperately needed. He broke the NFL rookie touchdown record and led the Browns to their first playoff victory in decades in 2020, vanquishing the Steelers on the road in Pittsburgh. However, injuries and inconsistent play led to his departure after the 2021 season, leaving the team searching for answers once more. Groper Cleveland's massive guaranteed contract and costly trade in 2020 was meant to end the quarterback carousel. However, his immediate suspension forced Jacoby Brissett and a slew of others to step in. Joe Flacco, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, PJ Walker, and Jeff Driscoll all saw time in 2023. When the dust settles, we might actually look at Joe Flacco as the best and most elite quarterback the Browns have trotted out since 1999, given his .800 winning percentage through 5 regular season games. But of course, the investment in Watson has rendered him essentially irrelevant heading into 2024. The Browns are a quarterback graveyard not just because they make the wrong decisions at the position, but because of their instability as an organization, their turnover at head coach, and mostly because they make wrong decisions at the position. Yeah. Cleveland Browns Stadium, Cleveland, Ohio. Now this one has had some chatter about being replaced, but there is nothing concrete yet. The last renovations were done in 2014 with a new video board and improved concessions. Honestly, there's nothing particularly obsolete looking about the stadium. However, the lease expires in 2028, and the Haslams have announced their intentions to do one of the following 2 things. Either a $1 billion renovation to the existing building or a dome stadium outside the city for double that cost. They actually released some preliminary renderings of what looks like a giant field house, which would be located in Brook Park, way outside the city, out near the airport. Shocker, in both scenarios, the Haslams will be seeking public funding, expecting about half the cost to be covered by fans like this guy. Considering that the city of Cleveland could not stomach the team leaving again, the shifty Haslams will probably get whatever they want. Cleveland Browns signing Deshaun Watson in 2022. You have to work pretty hard to somehow dig deeper than an 0-16 season. Jesus Christ. The Browns' low point came in 2022 when they signed quarterback Deshaun Epstein to a massive, fully guaranteed contract despite numerous allegations of misconduct against him. You know what kind. It highlighted Cleveland's willingness to overlook serious off-field issues in pursuit of on-field success, creating a moral and public relations crisis that continues to impact how the team is viewed by fans and the broader NFL community. On top of that, the on-field results haven't been worth the outlay of resources. They really thought Deshaun Diddy Combs was the missing piece to a Super Bowl run. Cleveland Browns. Bottlegate is the most frustrating loss on the field, but losing Bill Belichick as the coach, and then the entire team, seeing the old team win in Baltimore, and then having this new version of the team being owned by back-to-back clowns is way worse of a loss than just one game. Sorry, the Cleveland Browns' worst loss is just existing. Cleveland Browns 2016. You might think the 0-16 campaign of 2017 was the worst Browns season, but no, it was actually the year before, which was worse. Hear me out. The team drafted Corey Coleman, a wideout, 15th overall, and then QB Cody Kessler in the 3rd round, thinking that would help. It worked out like anyone who sold all their Bitcoin 6 months ago. Then Josh Gordon was not reinstated after failing another drug test. Johnny Manziel was cut in training camp, and RG3 inhaled L's like he does croissants. See, the thing is, there was some optimism headed into 2016, as 2 years before the team went 7-9 and had a decent defense. That shit died faster than Fire Festival 2. The team finished 1-15. Then Hugh Jackson said they can't do any worse, so they Cleveland and up and did worse. Freddie Kitchens, Cleveland Browns. Now, Freddie Kitchens has a lot of football knowledge in one specific area, coaching tight ends. However, as a head coach, his hire by the Cleveland Browns was the most perplexing one in a list that includes names like Eric Mangina, Rod Chudinsky, Pat Shurmur, and Mike Pettin. Kitchens had been a tight ends coach in the NFL for 12 years when he was elevated to offensive coordinator in 2018. Baker Mayfield's rookie season, where the Browns actually won 7 games, having inexplicably let Hugh Jackson coach 8 games that year. Greg Williams, who went 5-3 that season, was not retained as head coach, and Freddie Kitchens was elevated to head coach. To be fair, there weren't many great candidates in the mix that offseason outside of Matt LaFleur and the iffy Zach Taylor. There was Cliff Kingsbury, Brian Flores, and Vic Fangio, who were fellow rookie targets. And any of them would have been better than Kitchens, who looked clueless most of the time, leading his team to a 6-10 record. And for once, the Browns did the right thing and let him go after just 1 season. Still, it was a strange hire to elevate him so quickly from tight ends coach to OC, then head coach in a year's time, and then having to put him on the couch. Kitchens is currently the tight ends and run game coordinator for the Carolina Tar Heels. Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston praying to God to help him not suck is probably the most Jameis Winston thing ever. Besides, everything else Jameis does.
I know I'm better than this. I know. I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes.
Deshaun Wattstein's contract is going to have lasting effects for years. Just because you did that little restructure thing doesn't even mean that even after next year, cutting him doesn't fuck your team with a giant dildo cart. Everyone used to think you were lovable losers. Now you're just losers. I love how you signed Kadarius Toney. Put him in, he immediately taunts a Steeler and gets a personal foul. Then muffs a punt and fumbles to the guy that he taunted. Cleveland Browns football, everyone. It's almost like karma is a bitch that lives in Cleveland. And I can't wait until the 2025 draft and you don't take a QB.
Ha, the Bengals suck. Let's turn on the Browns. What the hell? The disappointment begins as the Browns missed the playoffs for the first time since 1963. It wasn't terrible, though. They went 9-5 and Frank Ryan looks promising. There's reason to be optimistic in Cleveland.
Once again, you went 9-5, but won your division this time. And you made the Eastern Conference Championship. Now get it done. Instead, you proceed to bend over and get ass blasted by the Cowboys. At least Leroy Kelly is good. You go 10-4 and make the playoffs for the 2nd straight year. Congratulations, you beat the Cowboys. Only a brick wall could stop you. Its name is the Colts. Wow, 10-3-1, win the division and make the NFL championship game? Bring it home, boys. Turns out Minnesota's legacy of failure was more important and you lose 27-7.
With a new decade comes change and it affects the Browns. 7-7, you missed the postseason? What kind of sick joke is this? You also played the Bengals for the first time and split your games. What? You traded Paul Warfield for a pick? I'm sure this won't come back to haunt you. At least you beat the Jets in the first Monday Night Football game.
You fire Brant Collier and replaced him with Nick Scourge. There's an immediate turnaround here. You go 9-5 and win your division. All happiness is killed as you get shit stomped by the Colts.
Wow, you go 10-4 and make the playoffs? This could turn into something. Wait, you blow a gigantic upset and lose to the Dolphins 20-14 in the divisional round. At least that will never happen again. Hey, you drafted this guy named Brian Sipe in the 13th round. Whatever happened to Paul Warfield? Oh, he was on the 17-0 Dolphins that beat you in the divisional round and won the Super Bowl.
You go 7-5-2 and miss the playoffs. We got a message? Mike Phipps sucks? Who'da thunk it?
You finished 4-10, the only team over 500 that you beat is the Broncos. Remember that guy named Brian Sipe? Yeah, he won that game. Hey, I wonder how the Steelers are doing. They just won the Super Bowl.
Nick Scourge is gone. Do you replace him with Forrest Gregg? Again, there's an immediate change. You go 3-11. Hey, I wonder how the Steelers are doing. They just won their 2nd Super Bowl.
9-5 is not too bad. You do miss the playoffs, though. You finally got rid of that pile of shit named Mike Phipps and replaced him with Brian Sipe. You also have star running back Mike Pruitt. And you got Paul Warfield back. He's old and past his prime, but you got Paul Warfield back.
Congratulations, Forrest Gregg is gone. And you start out 5-2? You might have a chance. Never mind, you lose 6 of your last 7 and go 6-8.
Sam Rutigliano is your new head coach. You go 8-8, so that's not really good or bad. You also drafted future star Ozzie Newsome. In other news, Brian Sipe is finally becoming a good quarterback. Hey, I wonder how the Steelers are doing. They just won their 3rd Super Bowl.
You finally get another winning record by going 9-7, but you still miss the playoffs. The rebuild is almost complete. Hey, I wonder how the Steelers are doing. They just won their 4th Super Bowl.
Brian Sipe wins MVP and Sam Rutigliano is Coach of the Year. You go 11-5 and make the playoffs for the first time since 1970. You're playing the Raiders in the divisional round. 14-12 in the 4th, and you attempt to win the game with the pass instead of winning the game with a chip shot field goal. Because of the miserable conditions, Sipe throws a pass to Ozzie Newsome, and it is picked off by Mike Davis. Red Red 88 will go down in infamy. At least he'll never suffer a crushing defeat in playoffs again.
The stain of Red Right 88 is still here as you go 5-11. At least Brian Sipe is still good.
Because of the player strike, you go 4-5 and make the playoffs. You then decide that it is a good idea to get dismantled by the Raiders. You also drafted Chip Banks.
You went 9-7 and got a winning record again. You also missed the playoffs again.
Midway through the season, you get rid of Rutigliano and hire Monty Schottenheimer. You finish with a 5-11 record.
With a full season with Schottenheimer, go 8-8 and win the equivalent of the modern-day NFC East. Then proceed to lose to the Dolphins in the divisional round. Again.
Welcome to the AFC Championship, Browns. Though you are not on drugs, you made it. Okay, the Broncos are at the 2-yard line in the 4th. It's 20-13. You can do it. Browns, what are you doing? Okay, it's overtime. Just get a score and leave. Oh, Rich Carlos just made a questionable field goal. Shit. At least you won't lose to the Broncos in playoff time again. Okay, guys, you're back in the AFC Championship with the Broncos. It's a great time for revenge. Hey, you come back from a 21-3 deficit in the second half. Not too bad. Ernest Spiner fumbles at the 1-yard line. 1 yard away from tying the game. It's like every time someone believes in you, you somehow manage to fuck it up. This is just insane. I cannot believe it. Alright, this time you'll get vengeance on the Broncos. You go 10-6. Now go on back to the championship game and... Wait, what? You lost to the Oilers in the wild card round? Damn, if it makes you feel any better, the Broncos didn't even make the playoffs.
Schottenheimer is gone, and is replaced with Bud Carson. You go 9-6-1 and win your division. You even make it back to the AFC Championship game. But an old foe stands in your way. Give 'em hell, boys. The more things change, the more things stay the same.
Bud Carlson is gone, and you get Jim Schaffner as your new interim head coach. 3-11 is your new record. Welcome back to the basement.
You get Bill Belichick as your head coach, then go 6-10.
You go 7-9 and miss the playoffs. Why am I not surprised?
Hey, you start out 5-2. Hope is rising. And never mind, you lose 7 of your last 9 and miss the playoffs.
Bill finally takes you to the playoffs and you go 11-5. You then implode and lose to the hated Steelers. Good job, Browns.
You get another losing season by going 5-11. At least there's next year, right? Wait, what? Another message? Oh, what the fuck?
Good job, Art Modell. You managed to get back at Cleveland one last time by moving them to Baltimore. Taking away football from Cleveland is almost as bad as taking away baseball from Cincinnati. After a few years of waiting, the Browns are finally coming back.
Finally, the Browns are back. Now go win the whole damn thing. Under the might of Chris Palmer and Tim Couch, you go 2-14. Can't get worse than this, right?
At 3-13, this team was so bad that their kicker was their best player. You also drafted Bus, Courtney Brown, and Dennis Northcutt. In other news, your good pals the Ravens won the Super Bowl.
Chris Palmer sucks. So you hire Butch Davis. And with the 3rd overall pick, you select Gerald Warren. As for the season, you go 7-9, but there is improvement here though.
2002, the year of dreams. You go 9-7 and make the playoffs. Then you implode a 12-point lead to the Steelers. Yeah! Hooray! Good job! In other news, people feel bad for Kelly Holcomb.
You completely fall apart and go 5-11.
Butch Davis is gone, so you hire Terry Robisky at interim. Your record is 4-12. Then you draft tight end Kellen Winslow. I bet he'll be a really good person.
Romeo Cornell is your new head coach and you go 6-10. Hey, I wonder how the Steelers are doing. They just won their 5th Super Bowl.
4-12 is the new normal.
Wow, you went 10-6 and just barely missed the playoffs. You even had 6 Pro Bowlers, including Joe Thomas. Next year will be great.
This year was not as great as you going 4-12. Hey, I wonder how the Steelers are doing. They just won their 6th Super Bowl.
Eric Mangini is your new head coach and he leads you to another 5-11 season.
Finally, a new decade to get out of the basement. You will go 5-11 again.
Pat Shurmur is now here to lead you to the joys of 4-12. I wonder how the Bengals are doing. They actually drafted good players? Yeah, they're gonna dominate the division for a while.
Simon says go 5-11. Simon says go sit and waste Phil Dawson's talent again. Simon says collapse and die. Simon says sit and watch the Ravens win another Super Bowl.
Rob Trzonski, new head coach, blah blah blah, 4-12.
Can we call 7-9 a breakthrough season? It must have been that Johnny football guy.
3-13. That's all I really need to say.
You fire Bapatine and hire Hugh Jackson. And then... Really? You go 1-15 and you didn't fire Hugh Jackson? Don't worry, he says he won't do it again.
You drafted a generational defensive end in Myles Garrett and got Deshaun Kaiser as your quarterback? Let's see how this season goes.
After that disaster, you draft Baker Mayfield. You plan to sit him behind Tyrod Taylor. You also got Nick Chubb. Guess what? You ended your losing streak with a tie. Tyrod is injured and you are forced to start Baker Mayfield. He gets your first win in over a year. It was against the Jets, but still, it's your first win. You finally fired Hugh Jackson. Thank the gods. Then you go 7-8-1. Not too bad.
It's going to be a great year. You picked up Odell Beckham Jr. in free agency. And you got Freddie Kitchens as your head coach. Only a brick wall could stop you. Its name is Freddie Kitchens. You got Kevin Stefanski as your new head coach. And in week 1, this already seems like the same old Browns season. Wait, you're winning games? Second in the division, you have a chance for first? And never mind, in your chance to clinch the division, you lose to the goddamn Jets. Yes, most of your receivers are out with COVID, but that doesn't stop Stefanski from giving the ball to Chubb. That doesn't stop the defense from giving up all those points. And that sure as hell doesn't stop Baker from fumbling the ball. You're gonna blow it, aren't you? You're in a close game with the Steelers' backups. Jesus Christ, you suck! You won. My God, miracles can happen. Bad news though, you have to play the Steelers starters.
Hey, 28-0 in the first quarter. No, you are not on drugs. Kick their ass, Browns. Browns, are you imploding in the third again? Oh wait, no you aren't. The Steelers just suck. You finally did it. You won a playoff game. And then you lose to the Chiefs because of bad ref calls and Chad Henne. This team has hurt me more than anything. Through all the blown games, crappy quarterbacks, and head coaches, the terrible trades and Art Modell, they have been the laughingstock of this league. It's about time that things have turned around, but the Browns will probably find a way to blow it and waste generational talents.
Kane has a face. Its name is Marty Schottenheimer. As the years pass by, the scars turn into his offenses. Reserved and methodical. Schottenheimer begins his trail of tears as a defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. This franchise knows all about such pain. Mention the words Red Right 88 into its ear and watch it quiver. Their fortunes have gone as such. Chucked into the end zone for an interception. However, their defenses are molded into a hardy crew, and Marty is promoted to become their new head coach. At 8-8, it's pretty iffy, but they still win their division because the Steel Curtain was outsourced, Cincinnati implodes, and there's an oil crisis in Houston. Taking on the Dolphins, the Browns have a 21-3 lead in the third quarter. Enter the curse of Marty. His team blows said lead with 3 straight touchdowns to rip victory from his hands. See? Told you this was painful. Things are a bit better this time around. They have a real quarterback in Bernie Kosar. They win a playoff game this time, and in front of a rabid dog pound, all we can do is look to the skies.
Brian Brennan, he's got it!
Did you ever see those movies where the hero thinks he's won a hard-fought battle only for the enemy to rise up from behind him? The main character does some stereotypical no in slow motion as his friend is knifed in the back. Sad music plays in the background. There's a gradual zoom into the dead man's face to show the viewer this is a pivotal moment. That was this game. The defense is branded with 2 words. The drive. May it be seared with anguish. The process is repeated. Revenge is the name of the game now. Back at the AFC Championship game against the Broncos that ripped your heart out last season. Now to Denver they go. Another tough battle is being fought. An offensive showdown worthy of such a prestigious event. This time, however, Cleveland has the last laugh.
Draw to Biner. Ernest Biner. Fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my!
Did I say laugh? I meant fumble their intestines onto the ground on the 1-yard line for all to see. This is an average Sunday in Cleveland. Another strong regular season, not bad for having to deal with a long-term injury to Bernie Kosar. With no real quarterback, the time has come for a return to the dog pound against the high-flying Oilers. Even with no offense most days, the Browns are keeping pace at least, as long as they don't fuck up low in the day.
He picks up the blitz. Nagel stands in, lets it go downfield. Free ball, it is almost picked off. Maybe it is.
If they didn't, I wouldn't be making this video, now would I? Cleveland loses. Again. This time, however, Art Modell wants to show the team who's boss and start strutting his dick around. The team was without their starting QB for the majority of the year, yet the offense wasn't good enough for his standards. You know what the NFL stands for, right? Not for long. It's allegedly mutual, but this is what we call getting screwed over.